Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lost Love Stories. I'm Pam Baker, your host, and today I have a very dear friend joining us, and I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her story. It's a different one. We haven't covered anything like this before, and it's a really valuable story. It's a really important story. So I'm really grateful that my friend Kate Boccia is on with us today. And yeah, we will get into our story a little bit, but I've known Kate for 20 years, probably. Yeah,
At least.
long
Mhm.
time. And we met through the cystic fibrosis world after my boys were diagnosed. And yeah, I think probably Wine and Roses or something was our first time we met. But yeah, welcome, Kate. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having me. I'm excited to
yeah,
be here.
I'm excited to have you. And today we're going to be talking about your son, Daniel.
Mhm.
And um, we will get into his story. But, you know, it's a story that I think so many people will relate to, as you know, as you ventured into this world that you weren't planning to be a part of, just like our CF world, we weren't planning to be a part of.
Mhm.
Um, but as you did in the CF world, you took something that was really horrible and have done really pretty amazing things. And we'll get to that a little bit later on. But first, I want to really get into like your family, like share with us who you are, where you live, and then we'll get into a little bit about Daniel and Daniel when he came into your life.
Oh Lord.
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah. Oh Lord.
Oh
All
Lord.
moms means. Well, again, thank you for having me, Pam. I'm Kate Basha. I've been married 36 years to Frank, and have a daughter, Paige, and a son, Daniel. We currently live in Alpharetta. Been here about 34 years now, so I guess we're Southern officially. But yeah, so we're here, both of us, Frank and I, just enjoying life in this age, and our grandchildren. Uh, so I think we could start, back with how I
Mhm.
came to the state of Georgia. I think that would be a good starting point. So Frank and I lived in Florida. We had the babies down there. Daniel was born in 1990. Paige born in 1992. We moved to Georgia when they were 21 months and 8 months old. We were excited. Frank had a good opportunity for work that we thought, let's go someplace new and exciting. And there was Atlanta looking at us. So brought our kids up to Alpharetta. We, bought the house in the little cul-de-sac in a white picket fence kind of neighborhood, like-minded neighbors, really good school systems. I always said I was, room mom, team mom, mom, soccer mom, all the mom stuff. I was fortunate. Yeah, I was fortunate to be allowed to be a stay-at-home mom. My husband had a job that allowed me that to stay home and raise the kids. So, it was a really nice start to our family's life and our children's life. We just loved living up here and made great, great friends over the years. So um, that's how we started our journey. I say fast forward to, well, going right into my kids growing up. They went to the public schools here. Dana was both of them smart, good kids, good students, well behaved. Daniel always challenged us a little bit more
Those
than
boys.
Paige. Yeah, I
Mhm.
know. He
Mhm.
he was he was the kid at school doing this. So label him. He doesn't sit still. He doesn't behave. He's got to calm down. Maybe he needs to go get on Ritalin. That was the stuff that was starting to happen with him. Where Paige, on the other hand, was always really well behaved, an easy student, and okay C student. Well, Dana was A, but she was the C because
Uh,
they didn't. She was good, right? It was
yeah.
okay to keep her and not. But I would say that her teachers, well, she's actually smart. She should be getting A's. I don't. What do we need to do? What do we need to do? And then so that's managing the two children, like we all know.
Mhm.
At the all the sporting activities that we were all involved with, as every mother
Yeah.
knows.
Mhm.
Dan tried every sport in the world. Paige didn't like sports. She liked horses, so she did the horse scene.
Mhm.
So, so as time went on and Daniel got into that age, I think it was September 11th. I had just put both of the children in a private school because of Paige. I felt like she wasn't getting what she needed, and I felt like Daniel wasn't getting what he needed. So they were in fourth and sixth grade, and then September 11th happened. And I was always grateful that I had put them in at that time when the world was so crazy.
Uh,
Daniel did not like it. He did really well there, but he stayed 1 year, went back to public school. Paige stayed 3 years and went back to public school after that. Um, so that was our kind of beginning journey of parenting and growing in our family here up in the North Fulton suburbs of Atlanta.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then yeah,
So that's
parent.
pretty normal. All of it pretty normal with what
Yeah,
everybody can relate to. Yeah. Yeah.
right. Happy normal life.
Mhm.
So my son was both my kids had a great sphere of friends. Daniels was intended to be a leader, and he was a good-looking kid, and he was a leader, and he was funny and well-liked. So he tended to kind of run the packs of boys. I call 'em boys. They're like a pack of dogs. They're fine in
Yeah.
the house, one dog at a time. You put them in a pack, and they kill it.
Yeah.
They don't even know why they did it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So starting to get into a little bit of trouble. Just I felt like normal trouble as far as um, I don't know, just normal trouble in
Mhm.
school, maybe skipping a class, getting caught with a beer, et cetera, things like that. That I didn't feel alarmed, but I also knew because I thought heck, you got nothing
Yeah.
on me, kid. When I was a kid,
Back in the day.
poor boring kids, you don't even know what the some of these are like. So I
Mhm.
didn't pay attention much other than to hope he would grow out of it. He became more difficult in school. He did not like school. High
Mhm.
school, he got to high school, and in middle school he was okay, but by high school, I think he was just too smart for school and too bored. And I think a lot of parents understand that as well. Like, if he doesn't, if and he got into trouble a lot, so the teacher didn't, he's a trouble kid, so we're going to write him up.
Yeah. Then you're tracked. You're
Yeah,
tracked as the
yeah,
children. Mhm.
exactly. He was that. So he decided in 11th grade that he was going to quit school because he wasn't going to graduate in time because of the way his courses. I actually Frank and I both went to his counselor and his teacher and asked, well, what can we do? And I remember the one teacher said, I have 140 students. I don't have time to worry about your son. And I
Oh,
thought, well, I'm confused here. You're
God.
my
Yeah.
school that you're supposed to be helping us to help him so that he can graduate.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that's kinda how it went. So Daniel did quit school, and he was old enough to do that. He was 17.
Mhm.
So he, got his GED, like, aced that thing. I'm like, "Dude, do you see how smart you are?" Like, he got, like, top whatever the highest score is on your GED.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You
So
know
that
what?
was
I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second because I feel like that's such a common thing with kids, with boys, especially with ADD, ADHD. They are so smart, and they also they know that they're smart. And I'm saying this because of my own experience with Jake. It was like uh, he felt like he was smarter than everybody else too. So
Mhm.
it was like, what am I doing here? Like I could
Right.
teach this class right now. This
Yeah.
is a total waste of my time. It sounds like Daniel felt followed that
He did
same like
yeah.
I can knock out my GED and be done and not be wasting another year and a half in this stupid building.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're exactly right. I think he ended up leaving, for a minute, going to one of those alternative schools, which that was one of his beginning his slippery slopes. But even prior to that, though, so Daniel, he had been he had his wisdom teeth pulled. I think a lot of people go, "Uh oh, we already know this story." And the
Yeah.
doctor gave me this vial of Percocets, and I handed it to him. I said, "Here's the instructions.
Mhm.
Here, honey, have this vial of drugs," not knowing what I know
Yeah.
now. So he was telling me that in school, like I found one time some Adderall. So he didn't. I never did get him diagnosed with ADD and didn't put him on Adderall, but they were sharing. The kids in the schools were starting to share them. This is back in when he was in 11th grade before he quit school. And I used to tell him, all the kids, you can't share. You read right here. Take only as directed. You see your names on. And I was like that kind of
Yeah.
made sense. I thought it was making sense to them, not realizing that they were getting this fulfillment from these drugs. That was something that none of us could understand. So Daniel quit school, but he ended up going up to North Carolina to a technical school up there. We packed him up. I was so excited because he was stressing me out. Like, he was
Mhm.
just too much all over
Yeah.
the place. And he's not working. He quit every other job. And so we're packing him up. I helped set up his room. I'm so excited. Off I go home. And
Yeah.
then a couple weekends later, he shows up, home for the weekend. I'm like, oh, okay, what are you doing here? I thought you were. And this kind of kept happening through the beginning of that school year, kept coming home. And then we get the call from his landlord that he was going to kick him out of the room because he was stealing his Oxycontins.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I knew that Daniel was his behavior was really off when he would come home, but I didn't understand what I know now. So,
Mhm.
and I didn't understand OxyContin. Nobody did. This was in 2010 or 11.
Yeah.
Nobody in this country understood what it was. And I did remember thinking Rush Limbaugh was addicted to OxyContin. So therefore, he was fine. So Daniel will be fine. Everything's fine. I never, I never even used the word addicted for him at that point. But that was what was happening. He finally got kicked out, landed back on our doorstep, and things just got uglier and uglier every day to the point that we realized that we were in trouble.
Mhm.
And at that point, Paige was headed off to college. She graduated a year after he would have, and went off to college, which I'm always grateful that she wasn't around during this really difficult time with him and his behavior. Out of control. He was never bad to us, Frank or I. He was always a really good son. He was a very loving, loved his family, but he was, off all hours of the night. Just I never knew where he was. I never knew what was going on. It was just everything was wrong. Mother knows, mother's instinct, right? Like,
And I'm sure the fear and the anxiety and the all of the things that go into like what is happening, where is he safe, is he making good
right,
choices? He,
yeah.
I can't
It-
with the
It's,
yeah.
he was such a charmer. He'd come home, Mom, I'm fine. He would give me a big hug. Don't worry, I'm good. And
Mhm.
just easily melt and say, okay, he's fine, he's fine. And they started picking at his father. Now his father's getting pissed. Now Frank's like, listen, you fucking little moron.
Yeah.
You're a loser. You don't have a job. You want me to just give you money? What the hell's going on here? No,
Yeah.
this is stopping today. And so they were very, becoming this thing, the two of them.
Mhm.
And I was also like trying to enable and protect my son, and try to convince my husband that he's okay. So all the wrong stuff, right? Like we're just all the wrong stuff doing it.
But
Because
so typical stuff,
yeah,
very very normal common stuff.
right,
Yeah.
because what I've learned over the decades is that if moms could fix their kids,
Yeah.
there would be no CF, there would be
Yeah.
no addiction, there'd be nothing.
Stop
If
doing that.
we
Mhm.
always say if moms had all the resources at our fingertips that the government has,
Mhm.
we could fix our children,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
we don't. So we don't have a rule book, and we're pointed fingers at. We're told you shouldn't have let him do that. No, look at his long hair and could always get that red stripe in it. Oh, you let him get a tattoo. Oh, mom, you did this. Oh, mom, you did that.
Mhm.
So it must have been my fault that my son
Well,
was
yeah,
being.
because the mom does it ultimately the buck stops with the mom as well.
That's right. Yep.
Mhm.
And so I was going out everywhere looking for help. I went to the school, remember I said, and they poo-pooed
Mhm.
me. And then he quit school. I went to the mayor of Alpharetta at the time. So I had a meeting with him and said, I need help. My son's addicted to drugs. He's falling apart. And he says to me, have you tried rehab? And I said, well, why? That's why they call you the mayor now, isn't it? Kidding me, dude? You got 50 grand to spare? Do you
Yeah.
even know what you're talking
Yeah.
about? I realized he had no clue.
Mm-mm.
Alpharetta doesn't have this kind of problem. But what
Yeah.
was starting to happen is I was starting to see kids die. I was hearing it because of my children's circle, right? And
Oh,
the
and that was the time too. Remember, I think this just popped into my head. Remember when all like the news reports were coming out about it was like the Atlanta Triangle or whatever they called it.
heroin triangle. I'm in that,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
and
my God.
that,
Didn't put that
that's
together.
when it was all becoming noticeable. The public was starting to know because kids were starting to die, and I
Yeah,
was
and even
hearing
the
it.
like upper middle kids
Yeah,
that everybody like, what? Wait,
yeah.
what?
So it happened there, and
Mhm.
so I actually I started paying attention to when the children were dying and trying to speak to various leaders in our community. I actually started keeping a spreadsheet because I couldn't keep track. That's how many were dying. I was over 100 kids at one point that had died
Oh, I
in
didn't
the
know.
North Pole area. And several from Alpharetta High School, several from
Mhm.
Chad. I mean, all the high schools got hit. All
Mhm.
of even the the big high level private schools
Mhm.
were impacted, but nobody was talking about it. And that was the thing that I was always doing. I would say we have to talk about this. We have to, we have to explain to each other. We have to figure this thing out. And
Yeah.
how do we? That was always my thing. So Dana was getting worse and worse, and with his addiction to the opioids, and that was in 2011. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So in 2000, early 2011, um, Frank and I were in bed. It was late, and some girls came over to our home in the middle of the night. And we didn't know because we were sleeping, and uh, we heard a commotion. Woke us up, and Frank ran upstairs and I'm still in bed, but I hear all this commotion and I hear somebody's going to call 911. So I come out of my bedroom. I see Frank carrying one girl and Daniel carrying another girl down my stairs. They went out to the garage. In the meantime, we're calling 911, and the operator saying, I said, these girls are passed out. And they said, put them on the floor and start CPR. So I'm in the garage at 2 o'clock in the morning doing CPR on this young teenager. And I guess, right, somebody else was doing CPR on the other one. I don't even remember at this point. It might have been one of the other girls. There was 4 girls there. And so the people get there finally, the first responders and firemen, and the whole house is full of people. And my son was basically looked okay. I mean, he was, Mom, it's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. I said, oh my God, no, they just OD'd in my house. I mean, they're like, the cops came, they took them off in ambulances, and the cops now want to search my home. And there's to Daniel's room, and Daniel's like, it's all right, Mom, it's okay. I'm like, what are you doing? Why get out of my house? I mean, they searched his room and they found some paraphernalia of heroin. And that's when I realized that he had gatewayed over from the opioids to the heroin. And the girls had brought the drugs to the house because he was actually, I forgot, Dana was, I'll back up to his other story, but he was already on house arrest. I get him confused now because it was a year of hell. Hell.
Yeah.
Nightmare. A movie couldn't be as scary as this.
Right.
But yeah, he was on house arrest. Oh yeah, because back in the November prior to this was in April, he had been arrested at Georgia Tech with his buddy for in charge of armed robbery. They were okay. So yeah, sorry audience, there's a little bit of a piece I forgot. I got that first call at 4:30 a.m. No mother wants that call. If the phone rings at 4:30 a.m., you have teenagers, it's like,
no, it's not good.
Nothing good is going to be on the other end of this call. And it was Mom. I was just arrested. The night before that he went out, I said to him, he said, where should we go, Mom? He was 21 at the time. That's right. I said, I don't care, but if you call me with a DUI, don't bother.
Yeah.
I'm not even bailing your ass out. You are stuck.
You're stuck.
Don't call me. 4:30 a.m. I get the call. Mom, I've been arrested. Oh my God, jerk. What do you bet? Yeah. Armed robbery.
Oh my God.
What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're saying to me. Frank was out of town at the time, which is great too. So somehow Frank raced home. He got home the next morning, and we went down to the Fulton County Jail. If you hadn't had a chance, if y'all Fulton County residents, are you a Fulton County residents? That's your jail. You ought to tour it because it's your jail. Y'all trust me.
I saw the reality show about it, and holy shit.
Yeah, it's true.
Isn't it?
It's a disaster. Well, all the jails are, but that's another talk show. So we got him out, and that was we kind of were in this legal conundrum now, waiting to figure out, like, what do you mean armed robbery and what's this all about? So the judge, when they gave him his bond, required him to stay home on house, kind of like a curfew. Like, he could be out from 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. or something. So that's why the girls came over to our house that night. He couldn't go anywhere. So we're battling that legal thing. And then now these girls come and this happens. Cops find stuff in his room. They take off. About a week later, I knew some of the district attorneys and stuff in the area, and I got a phone call from one of them saying there was a warrant out for Daniel's arrest. I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Yeah. It's for this overdose that happened at the house. They were charging him with criminal mischief, criminal something. It was a criminal. It wasn't a felony, but it was a serious charge. So I said to him, look, we'll bring him in Monday. My dad it was Wine and Roses weekend.
Oh, wow.
It was in April. My dad was coming to town for Wine and Roses. So I said to the officer, I called the police department. I said, can we just bring him in on Monday after my dad leaves? I don't want to upset my father. He's older, and sure, that won't be a problem. So Dad was going to be coming in Friday. This is Thursday. Frank and I went out to dinner. Daniel was home on his curfew. We came back, and there's no Daniel. His dog is there. His car is there. His wallet's there. Daniel's not there.
What?
Now, when I left my house, I realized there was a car sitting down kind of end of the street, and it made me uncomfortable. Like, there were detectives watching our house. and they came and got him. What they did was they came up after saw us leave. They called in and they came to the front door. We had a big glass front door that was, the storm door was
Mm-hmm.
all the way in, and they were standing there with their guns drawn to arrest Daniel. Now he had a pit bull dog that was on the couch, and that dog had a serious injury to its leg, so it wasn't able to get up off the couch. And I often think, thank God, because they probably would have shot it because it would have charged him. If it wasn't a mean dog, he would have come running up.
Oh
So
yeah.
they came to my house with guns drawn, took him, handcuffed him, brought him down to the Alpharetta Police Department, and charged, and then sent him back to Fulton County Jail, which is now his
Mhm.
second time at that hellhole. Um, which they didn't have to do that. They
Mm.
could have let him go that night. The whole thing was just ridiculous. So now we're just
So
taking, yeah,
too, where
yeah.
if waiting for you to leave, like what the hell?
I was going to bring him in Monday. Now think about it, everybody. Y'all paid taxes to arrest my son again,
Hmm.
to send out those detectives. That costs money. Do what they did. Take him down to book him into Fulton Alfred jail, and then get two sheriffs from Fulton County taxes. Drive up
Hmm.
to Alfred, get this kid to bring him back down to Rice Street, where he spends another 6 days on your tax dollars. I always say that people don't understand that costs everybody money for no
Yeah.
need. We could have just
Reason.
brought him in. Well, they charged him with those girls' overdose, but in fact, they brought the drugs to my house. I told that police that
Yeah.
they brought them in. They did, I don't understand why. And the other thing, those girls' parents never reached out to me,
Oh my God.
ever.
You
If
like,
that were your daughter, what would you do?
oh my God. You saved their lives.
Yeah. I mean, and first of all, what are our kids doing? Why are they all together doing drugs?
Mhm.
Let's talk
Let's
again.
talk
Here we
about
go.
that. Oh my
Anyway,
God.
so that's how my life was heading. Daniel's life was heading. We were now facing the armed robbery case, October 2012. We ended up finally got a court date because we were just going to court. I don't know. I've never been to court like this before. We're going to go in front of a jury of our peers and we're going to tell the truth and everything will be fine. Because Daniel didn't, when he got charged with armed robbery, he had no weapon. He stole nothing. He hit nobody per victim testimony. I have a video of the crime scene I've never really shown it much. I do, and I will again in the near future, but it was the silliest little a bunch of drunk boys at a frat party. I'm not saying Daniel wasn't, I'm sure he was up to no good. He was at the frat party. He didn't go there, but all his buddies went to that particular frat house. And it was Georgia Tech game day, so that they had the games all day. And then that night, like I said, the kids all partied. And
Partying all day long from
2 a.m. ain't nothing happening good at 2 a.m. at a frat house
no, on a game day.
on a game day.
Really bad. Yeah.
Even though, yeah. So the fight ensued amongst these boys, and the Georgia Tech cops came, arrested Daniel and his co-defendant Brandon, and charged them both with armed robbery and a few other charges. So go to court thinking that the truth will come out and everything will be fine. And 3 days of trial. Um, they were both Brandon and his co-defendant Daniel were at that point a real mess in their drug addiction. They were just totally raging heroin addicts at that point,
Mm.
and they couldn't come to they couldn't even figure out this whole court thing. Well, Brandon ended up during a break left and didn't come back to court.
Oh, wow.
And the judge is waiting and waiting and waiting. We're all sitting there, and even the kid's mother was there next to me, and we're like, "Where is he? Where is he?" Well, he was going to get a hit someplace.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he finally showed back up. In the meantime, Daniel was on the stand, and then his attorney decided to put him on the stand to testify because the guy wasn't there, and we wanted to make sure that Daniel could tell something so that the jury would think that they are bad guys. Anyway, all that said, Friday we went to break. All the court proceedings are done, and Frank and I knew it wasn't going to be good, but that we went to eat at a food truck, and I always say that was the best meal Daniel had in his life. And it was not that good because the next thing was we, the jury, find the defendant Daniel J. Boccia guilty. Bang. And we knew that second that gavel hit that thing, it was like 10 years mandatory minimum sentence. He was going to prison for a minimum of 10 years, not one day less because of the arm.
Didn't have a weapon, didn't steal anything.
Correct.
He's literally in a fight at a frat party.
Yeah. It was a bad fight too. It looked like a bunch of girls. I'm like, I could fight better than that dude. I tell him that all the time. It's true. I'll show it to you one day, Pam.
Wow.
So, so that day was like the day, I always say that was the day, that's the first day that Daniel died. It was as if he died. I grieved death.
Yeah.
I grieved deep grief.
Mhm.
When they whisked him off, I remember him. They grabbed him. All the sheriffs were behind him. They grabbed him, yanked his arms, and handcuffed him right there. Again, was this necessary? He turned around, looked at me, and yelled, "Mama!" And I'm like, "Daniel!" And then the sheriffs are on me, "Ma'am, you have to be." I'm like, "I have to do nothing. What are you talking about?
My God.
My kid's going to prison for 10 years." So sentencing was the following week was sentencing. This was October 24th. October 31st, Halloween, was the day they sentenced him, and that judge, I won't say her name here, y'all can Google and find out,
Mhm.
wanted to sentence Daniel to 15 years to do 14, which meant he was going to do 14 years of time before he could ever even be considered for release. He
What
could
was
not
the
release.
reasoning? Like what that is so I mean, I've obviously peripherally lived this story, with you. But like I never understood that. Like what was and to my in my mind it was always like you're just trying to make an example of him. Like what was the reasoning?
I think there was that. The judge was a newer judge. She didn't like Daniel when he testified. I think she did say it later on when we had a resentencing hearing that she thought he was a liar, and that
Mm,
a lot of things she didn't like him, and so she was setting an example, but to do what we never were sure. So off he went. Spent about 2 weeks in Fulton County Jail before Georgia Department of Corrections came and got him. They came and got him November 19th, and what happens then is he goes into the state system, and you don't hear from him. Like I couldn't talk to him or see him. I couldn't see him at the jail except on video visits, which are shaky at best. But now I knew that he's going to go through classification and diagnostics. That's a several week period that there's
mm.
nothing now. Thanksgiving, it's Christmas.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and my life, Frank and I remember when we left there, our friends were all there, thank God. I don't remember how we got home, but we got home.
Mm.
And that whole week prior to, I don't barely remember functioning.
Yeah.
I remember crying a lot and drinking a lot, and crying a lot and drinking a lot, and drinking more and crying more, and wearing just gray sweats, and just that's depression. And I think
Literally like yeah, mourning a loss.
yeah, it was
And
deep, and it
I guess
hurt.
preemptive loss at that point too, because that's before the sentencing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so the original, just knowing he was going for 10 years, and now we got this extra. Yeah, so I remember one night we went to bed half the night. One of us would be crying in the middle of the night in the bed, which was god awful. But I woke up one morning really early, dark still, and like 5 in the morning. I was smelling like pork chops or something. What am I smelling? I go into the kitchen. Frank's got the big green cast iron pot. He had gone to Walmart in the middle of the night and bought all the ingredients to make his Sunday meatballs gravy stuff.
Oh my
And
God.
cooked all night long. That was his way. That was his coping mechanism, the cooking. He didn't know what else to do. I remember
Mhm.
saying, "I guess we're having people for dinner," because it was so it was really a thing.
Well,
Meatballs was showing up over the top, sausage and pork chops, and I. So we were trying to deal with grief and trying to figure out this thing now, that this new phase that we're in. Now Daniel was, when he was sentenced, he used heroin, so he detoxed in Fulton County Jail. He never had nobody acknowledged when he went to diagnostics in prison. They didn't talk about his addiction. They didn't
right.
ask him about that. They asked him if he was ever depressed, and he said, "Only when I'm awake."
Oh,
I can
wow.
think, am I depressed? I just got sentenced to 15 years in prison. I'm 20 years old, or
Say, and he
22.
was one? Yeah.
Yeah, he had just turned 22, like
Oh,
4 days before his conviction. So yeah, off he went. So when he was at Georgia Diagnostics, he said there was a counselor that took him under his wing and let him come up to her office and read books and stuff. So that was kind of encouraging. But he finally got ready to go to his permanent camp. We call him camp. No camp,
wow.
no camp, y'all. I want your kids to go there. That's not a
Wow.
camp. So when he was getting ready to be transferred, they shackle him. Shackles, wrists, ankles, waist. Put him on the bus with a bunch of other guys to go. Nobody knows where they're going. They don't tell you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's sitting on that bus at the diagnostics down in Jackson, Georgia, waiting to go wherever. And all of a sudden, the CERT team, which is kind of like the big guys, the squad, this tactical squad, comes racing around the yard, and they saw an inmate with a uniform covered in blood, and he had stabbed somebody to death. So now they're on the transport bus waiting to go to wherever they're all going to go, and now they got the whole thing like roped off for a crime scene.
Oh
And
my,
Dan sat on that bus for 9 hours.
shackled.
Hmm. All of
Oh
them.
my God.
Yeah, there was a toilet on the bus that they could use, and they gave him a brown bag of nasty food.
Oh
So
my
that's
God.
welcome to prison. Actually, and I've been looking for this. When he was in that phase, he sent me a postcard, a little postcard. It said, "Dear Mama, I miss you so much. This place is no joke. I've seen people stabbed and beaten and shit." That's my first letter from him.
Oh my God.
What are you talking about? He didn't.
Yeah.
Is he? Send him to war, or did they send him to
Wow.
prison?
Right.
He went
So
down, and that was
when,
that.
let me back up one second. When you said
Yeah.
he had that classification process period, what is that? What does that even mean? What are they doing during that?
So I think all men and women who are sentenced to go to prison in Georgia, state of
Mhm.
Georgia, and probably every state, go to a facility that they do diagnostics and classify them. So they figure out
Okay.
what's wrong, and then based on their crime and their age and kind of actuarial, if you will, they
Mhm.
figure out their placement. Is it going to be a low, medium, or high
Oh,
security?
I see. Okay, so they're classifying what branch of prison they're going to be sent to.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay.
But then it was classified at medium security, which we were grateful for because an armed robbery can automatically send you to closed or high or maximum security,
Okay.
which is no joke.
Yeah,
So they
who's
sent
gonna?
him down. Yeah, they sent him. He was able to call me that I think right before he was shipped. That's the term. I have a whole blog on the prison language. It's pretty funny actually. Not a
Yeah,
blog, yeah. But yeah,
yeah.
he was shackled and shakedown. Anyway, off he went to Autry State Prison, which is as far south west as you can go. You can touch Alabama and Florida, basically, from
So
Autry.
literally as far away from you as you could get
Yeah,
within the same.
yeah, yeah, 4 hours and 20 minutes one way drive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he went, and that's how life became a different thing.
Yeah, a whole new thing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. The grief was so horrific at the beginning that those first several months, I say it was 111 days. I remember Paige coming home from school and sitting down on the ottoman. And, "Mommy, do you really need another glass of wine?" I said, "Yeah, I do, honey.
Yeah, I really do.
Get it for me. I need it." And I was such a disaster. I mean, the grief. I mean, everything. I remember looking at my gray flannel like pajamas I wore all day, every day, and there was like, when they were
Yeah.
rusty. Like literally, I cried so much. And actually, then January 31st, I got fired from my job
Oh my God.
as a collateral result of my son going to prison because I couldn't function. I wasn't doing my job well. It was rightfully so.
How could
Um,
you?
yeah, I didn't even care. I was like, good. I don't need to work. I'll just
When
sit
you
here.
do it, there's like, I mean, now you've been through both. I imagine that it's a separate kind of hell than actually losing someone, like when they die, because the helplessness of it and you've got to feel so helpless and so like, also, what the fuck? Like when you think about Daniel's circumstances. Now,
Yeah,
you're not denying that he didn't make some bad choices. You're not denying that. You're not but what he had for consequences did not match the
it didn't
crime,
make. No,
and it didn't match the history. So it's such a weird, and I'm sure I never thought about this either. I'm sure it was a direct result of us being labeled that triangle. So I'm sure there was some of that in play, but also shitty that she just didn't like him, and that's just shitty. You don't
yeah.
sentence somebody on that. You sentence them on facts.
I thought
Yeah,
you were a judge.
yeah.
Judges can be
Judges
like
aren't
very
supposed to do that. Yeah,
harsh.
yeah. I just think that's so like it's almost like perpetual grief, because when someone dies, there is an ending. There is an ending, so you can like be now we're at the ending. Even like in John's circumstance, where it was a 3-year process, with his illness. When it happens, there's an ending, so it's almost like you can be like, okay, now whatever period of time you need for the grief, and then start healing. But you're like in this in
Yeah,
between
yeah, war
horrible
time
place.
war.
No, like anything can happen at any given second with him
Mhm.
in that
Any
in
second.
that institution.
He would call me up and say, "Mom, I just saw someone stabbed. Mom, I got to sleep with my boots on because I might have to get up and run in the middle of the night in case there's a riot." I mean,
Oh,
kind of fear. Every time the phone rang and it was his phone that that they could call from, my heart would just stop, and I would be so scared to hear what I was going to hear on the other end. Like it's either, "Oh my god, I need help," or "Mom, I'm so mad about this," or "Hey, Mom." I mean, I just never knew, so I was like literally would shake when that phone would
it's
ring.
like a constant state of fight or flight too, so your cortisol levels had to be totally
Oh,
fine. Like,
yep,
yeah.
it does it messes with everything, and
Yeah.
so when he finally we were so scared for his safety at that prison. I happened to meet some people. I went to an event where Department of Corrections folks were there, which is what I started doing, which was part of my healing path, was to like wake up and figure out, okay, I got to figure this thing out. I can't, drown myself in alcohol and sit in the fetal position and not work. So I kind of like had to like pull myself together and let's just go. Let's just do something. And I'll tell you something interesting that happened. The day I really had that epiphany, like when I'm not working, Frank and I are fairly estranged, just kind of like not just, depression.
Mhm.
I just, God, I literally threw my arms up. I was sobbing. God, please take all this from me. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm giving it all to you. I went like that. I screaming in my house. And I went downstairs. I took a shower. I threw away those nasty pajamas, cleaned myself up. I said, I'm going back to my computer. I'm going to I got to start looking for work. I need to get focused on work and I got to learn about Daniel. That day, an envelope came in the mail. My girlfriend in Connecticut, who I've known since 1976 or before, kept telling me, "We were sending you something. Yeah, you'll be getting it any day." I'm like, "Good, more Bibles," because they're all Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, another verse. So I get this package, and it's full of these Hallmark greeting cards, and there's a little like plastic heart with Corinthians 13, the love one. Little, but the cards were there, and I started opening up these. I was with Frank at our kitchen table, and I pull it out, and there's a nice greeting card wishing us, well, maybe there's a $20 bill in it. Go to Starbucks, get yourself a coffee.
Mhm.
Uh, um, just different things. One was a $500 money order from this guy named Harold Heyer, who I'd seen since 1972. He lived down the street from me.
Oh,
Why is he?
wow.
I'm just hoping that this can help. So all this money had added up, like these envelopes. Some had money, some didn't. $20, $100 check, if whatever, random. And Denise never told anybody to send money. Nobody, not one person.
Oh.
That money all added up to $1,000, which is
Mhm.
exactly how much Frank and I were short to purchase Daniel's transcripts. And
Wow.
it was when the market tanked and everybody was losing everything, including our homes. We didn't care about our flipping house. I
No.
don't give a shit. I'm not paying my mortgage. I'm getting my kids' transcripts. I can
Yeah.
find a place. That's where we were. And that $1,000 came that very day that I gave it him.
Right.
I still get goosebumps when I tell it because it's the truth. And that's
Yeah.
when I knew, okay, Kate, you got to get yourself pulled together here. Your
Mhm.
son, your daughter, your husband, nobody's going to get any better if we don't. Well, I took off running and I never looked back.
Yeah.
Fought that beast for years with Daniel.
Mhm.
And yes, it was a beautiful, it's still a beautiful journey that I'm on. And so as I learned to navigate the Department of Corrections, more importantly, as they learned to figure me out, because they
Mhm.
didn't love me at first. I kept showing up. I always had a
Mhm.
question. "Excuse me, I have a question," and I'd get my pen and paper waiting for your answer that you're not answering.
I love it.
Sir, that didn't answer my question. Let me rephrase it for you.
Uh-huh.
How do I get him his glasses? Simple question. He's blind as a bat. He needs glasses. Can you please answer that question for me? I mean, it's a simple question. So I was that person, and
Mhm.
and showing up. And at that time, it was criminal justice reform was all the sexy, exciting talk of the town.
Yeah.
So it was. I was out. There was conferences all over the country. There was all these councils forming and
Yeah.
groups forming.
Uh-huh.
And so I was showing up at all of these things and always asking myself, where are the other family members? There's all these people.
Mhm.
I always say there's the .orgs and the .govs and the .edus in the room, but where's the .fams, the .moms? Where are
Yeah.
we? We're talking about us and our kids or our family, our loved ones. So showing up and kept pushing people to say, we know what needs to be done. We
Mhm.
So Department of Corrections didn't like me for a long time. I was a talk of the boardroom. I've heard because I had insiders now by then, and
Mhm.
they just realized that they weren't going to get rid of me, and that I was going to. advocate for my son at
Mhm.
any level, including going to the governor's office and sitting down with him at one point. And they knew that. And the governor's the boss of them.
Yeah.
So it was working. Dana was starting to, well, first Dana would say, Mama, quit calling the warden. And I say, should have had a different mama now, shouldn't you have? Pam would say too. I mean,
Totally.
sorry,
Mhm.
I mean, I have no choice here. They're forcing my hand,
Yeah.
by not giving you what you're trying. They would try to tell me he can do it. No, he can't. He's in a cage. How is he supposed to go do anything? He can't just go call somebody to get help. Y'all stupid. So
Here's my his prescription. That's not gonna work. Yeah.
no, yeah. So he got staph infection. It was like his arm was orange and swollen, and I had like
Mhm.
it was a Saturday, and none of the officers would help him. And I finally called the warden, made the mistake of giving me his cell phone. So I called the warden and I said, look at dude, he needs to go to a hospital now. And don't forget, staph infection doesn't care if you're an inmate or an officer. Just giving you that heads up.
Yeah. Yeah.
He went looking at it within an hour. He was in the hospital. So
Wait, well, this might affect me? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
And my staff, oh Lord. So
Yeah.
time was going on and I was just getting really good at what I was doing with Daniel, and family started asking me for help,
Mhm.
and I was helping them, and I had the idea to start my company when I realized how many families needed so much help in this ridiculous place.
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch you navigate, as you and John worked together on White Roses and stuff too. So, you guys had a tight relationship, but he was very vested in watching you and being a part of what you were doing and what you're referring to, I want to get it right, the National Incarceration Association. And that
Mhm.
was just like, I think about badass women. You've always been a badass woman, and you took that time you needed to take to get through the depths of that hell and the moment, and then it's like, okay, what am I going to do
Yeah.
to make a change? And you're the best person to do it because you're not afraid. You're not going to back down, and you're not going to take no for an answer. But you're also, I should say, and you're also one of those to like wrap your arms around all those families who don't have the skill set or the know-how or whatever it is to then be that dot fam, the things that you saw that were missing. And how do you bring them in, those families whose voices can make a difference, they just don't know how to use them yet. And it's really interesting. So talk about that. Like, you decided you're going to start this association, and what did that look like?
Well, first I'll phrase, I always said it was cystic fibrosis and my nephew Pete, who passed away from CF. That was my training grounds for 20 years.
Mhm.
And I realized that I knew how to go get money for CF, and I knew how to talk to big, important, I call them mucky mucks. I wasn't afraid of them. I'd bring a couple of kids with me and give me
That's
20 grand. Well, it was easy. But he was my training ground. So when Daniel got into this space, I realized I had the same ability to do here, what I was doing with CF. It's no different. These are just people.
Yep.
I don't care if you're wearing a badge or you're behind a razor wire. So I was the NIA, National Incarceration Association, NIA, started in my mind when I realized how many families needed help
Mhm.
and how many families were truly impacted. And we have 34 prisons, just state prisons. That's not including jails, and that's not including feds, and that's not including other detention centers. 34 state prisons in Georgia. And I figure every visitation I'd go, there'd be, let's just say, an average of 50 people in line. Okay, times 30. We have a lot of people that feel like me. They're standing in this line to go behind the wire to kiss someone you love. But we never connected. Like with CF, you have your family of community. We didn't have that community of people that understood where we were and what we needed. So I thought that's stupid. Why? And I knew why it was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think it's because the guilt and the shame and all the things that go along with the concept of prison, or was it you just didn't? You're so like focused in on your own person that
No,
you're there to see.
it's definitely the guilt. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing and stigma
Mhm.
and shame, but it's also purposefully done. Families are purposefully kept apart. And when we
Um,
go, we're not allowed to talk to each other in the visitation room. With the line, you just stand in the line, and it's kind of like a bunch of strangers. You're not talking to people in the Walmart line. So we're purposely kept apart because we have knowledge, and knowledge is power. And
Mhm.
nobody's ever been able to harness that knowledge and that power in a way that becomes a voter block, which is what my original intentions were, because there are more people impacted by incarceration than any other voter block, bar none. I don't care what y'all think. The National Rifle Association has a membership,
Mhm.
pro-life, LGBTQ,
Mhm.
any of the voter blocks. If you think about those numbers, they're not nearly as many of people who know somebody who's been locked up, even if it's for a day. There's so
Interesting.
many more of us. So we started the idea of that, but it came into forming it as a nonprofit to help families navigate the journey of incarceration, but also pushing for positive outcomes and pushing for reform. So we do a lot. We stay very focused. We're 10 years old this year. It's our 10th anniversary. So we've been around a minute, and we've got a powerful team, and we really have a lot of respect. Department of Corrections, elected officials, they know who we are. The Fulton County Sheriff knows me personally. I mean, I've been in his jail. Don't lie to me, Miss Sheriff. I like you, but not a lot of people do, but I do.
Mhm.
But we formed to help families, but more importantly, um, now it's more about innovating ideas to solutions. We're all about the NIA is all about public safety and crime reduction.
Mhm.
You can't lock people up like my son and not fix them. We'll get
Yeah.
back to my son in a minute, because if someone commits a crime, we arrest them and detain them for a reason, but we have to understand, what is the reason. Are you detaining them because they're dangerous? Are you detaining them because you're angry at them? What's the reason? And what are you looking for? What's the solution? What's the problem you're trying to solve by detaining a human being? So for somebody who does commit an armed robbery, we think armed robbery, we think, at the
Yeah.
ATM. So that person has some kind of something wrong, right? We figure out what's wrong with that human being, and then we got to figure out a formula how to fix them while they're locked up.
Mhm.
Because coming home, no matter 95% of the people that we lock up come home, no matter how long they've been in, no matter what crime they've done,
Mhm.
95 come home at some point. And if they're not fixed during that time, the only thing that can happen is they can get worse, period. They cannot get better. You can't get better without treatment for substance use disorder or mental illness, treatment for anger management, treatment for criminal behavior, or you can't get better if you can't educate somebody and teach them, train them, give them tools and resources to grow, right? You got to do all the things simultaneously.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. For sure.
But that
This is a little separate side note, but interestingly, um, totally coincidental. But my book club that I had last night, the book that we read, do you know the book, The Many Lives of Mama Love?
Oh, I've heard of it. I've not read it.
This woman who was in addicted to heroin and like same thing, white upper middle class, masters of fine arts, whatever. She's a crazy story, but and ended up in the prison system, and just like, I mean, she's gone on to be a best-selling author, and met Oprah and met the Dalai Lama, and she's done all these crazy things that it's just like feels fantastical. Um, but it goes so much into, you're completely screwed once you're in the system. Like, it's meant to keep you there
Yeah,
instead of letting you get
it is.
out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she got pulled over one time and she was like 7 years. She was on probation for a long time because she couldn't pay back the restitution. And so they kept her on probation. She's like out with her kids to get Chipotle and had a tail light out. And and then
Really.
suddenly she had 10 cops surrounding her. And it'd been like nothing, hadn't done a thing wrong in whatever it was, 4 years or 7 years. And she was like SWAT team around her
Mm-hmm.
because she's on probation and had been in prison however long ago. She was like, it's like so meant to keep you there.
It
And
is.
you feel that, you feel the same.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There is no formula to get them home and keep them home,
Mhm.
and have heard stories like that many, many times. And I've literally talked to thousands of families over the last 10 years, and sometimes I think I've heard it all now, and then it's like, what are you talking?
Wow.
So inside right now, Georgia State prisons are horrific shape. There's extreme violence. There's extreme understaffing. There's extreme drug abuse. There's contraband, cell phones, knives, guns being brought in daily. It's much more dangerous than when Daniel was there right now. So Daniel he was sentenced. He would have come home in 2028. But I fought all those years and got his sentence modified with a lot of work with our district attorney at the time. um, for years and joining all these committees and councils and constantly pecking at them until the DA agreed to modify his sentence, a joint modification. So the judge agreed in her infinite wisdom. The DA agreed to 4 years with treatment afterwards, but the judge decided 6 years. So he stayed in 2 more years after that agreement, and he came home in October of 2018.
Mhm.
That was an interesting day too. We were so excited. He had been in a transitional center, which is where they can work. It's a work release program. So he had been locked in the prison cage for 5 years, and then he went to the transitional center right up here in Beaufort,
Okay.
Georgia, and he was allowed to work, have a cell phone, finally put on street clothes, like we could bring
Mhm.
him clothes instead of blue and white uniform. Matter of fact, I went to visit him the first time he got to wear street clothes, and he's sitting looking, and the whole time he's like, look at this. He's like, what are you doing? He goes, look at these clothes, man. These are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, he lived in a concrete room, white walls, with a white uniform, with white sneakers. The mirrors aren't really mirrors; they're like tin, so you can't really see yourself even.
Okay.
For
Uh-huh.
5 years like that in a dorm of 60 men, like you can't even touch dorm, bunk to bunk, three stacks. So
Wow.
living like that for 5 years, and then coming out to what was freedom, and he was allowed
Mhm.
to go outside the gate, and he called me, Mom, this is amazing. I could walk away, but I won't. Don't worry, I won't. Well,
Yep.
don't you dare walk away, kid. We're close. So he was working, and he was doing remarkably well, in
Mhm.
spite of 5 years of nothing, no educational opportunities, no treatment for his substance use disorder, no nothing, zero. Oh, he played hacky sack, really good at hacky sack.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
he could have had a master's degree.
Yeah, no kidding. Did while he was in, because he didn't have treatment, was he able to still have access to drugs, do you think? Was that still
Yeah,
happening in there?
yeah. He was pretty good. He was abstinent most of the time, but he tested dirty for marijuana several times. I know he drank alcohol a little bit, although that was never his drug of choice. He never really liked alcohol.
Mhm.
But he was pretty good in there because his addiction was stalled
Yeah.
because he lived in a very structured environment. You don't every day you do the same thing. Talk about
Mhm.
groundwork. You get up at the same time. You eat the same crap. You go. You don't nobody. You can't just you can't decide when you do anything. Someone tells you when you get up. Somebody tells you when you eat. Somebody tells you what you eat. Somebody tells you when when you can take a shower. Every single thing someone tells you all for 5 years straight. You don't turn
Mhm.
a light on or off. You don't open or shut a door. You do nothing. The only thing that you do that you have any control over is maybe folding your stuff to fit in your little locker.
Wow.
And that has to be perfect, like inspection
Yeah.
ready. So it's a very controlled. That stalled his addiction, but it didn't treat his addiction. And this is
Mhm. Right.
interesting. That I thinking back now, I realize that and what I've learned that what treatment really looks like for someone in like Daniel's severe case. Um, it could have been done in that 5 years. He could have had such
Yeah.
amazing treatment and simultaneously learning skills, going to college, getting courses, learning, growing, healing. Right, and
Totally.
in
It makes sense to have that done. So it again gives you a fighting chance when you're already going to have things stacked against you when you get out, just by having the record, just by
that's
having
right
your record.
there. You're not getting
Yeah.
a job, you're not getting housing, you're not getting insurance, you're not getting anything.
You have so many things stacked against you. But if you could
Mhm.
come out like healed, clean, like securely clean and more educated, that just makes sense. It makes
Duh.
sense.
See, you're
Duh.
so logical.
Yeah. Like what
It's a
else are you doing there? Like
Yeah,
why not?
and it's just society as a whole has to understand that a lot of people say, "Well, you give them a free education, they don't deserve." I'm not saying that. Currently, they are coming home, and they're coming home more damaged, more dangerous than they were than they went in. So it's in the best interest of public safety to
Mhm.
fix a human being that already had damage. Daniel had some things wrong.
Yeah.
He had an addiction, but he also had some anger management issues. He had some stuff that
Yeah.
needed to be dealt with, and also he needed the structure of learning to grow
Mhm.
in a way that makes sense to him. So I get angry when people don't realize the collateral damage that it causes when we don't fix a human being when they're incarcerated.
Mhm.
Now we all understand professional clinicians, real psychiatrists, psychologists, people that are professionals in criminal they know how to evaluate a human being. And we know there are people that we can never let come home. We
Oh,
know
yeah.
some people can never be fixed. We already know, we already have the tools to properly assess those dangerous criminals. That's a no brainer. But that's
Yeah.
a small percentage of the people that
It's
live in our
just
prison.
a small sampling out of all the vast majority of people that are in could truly benefit
Right.
from
Yes.
resources like
Right. Come home and and come home and give back to their community with not just their time and energy, but through gross domestic, by GDP,
that. Mhm.
by working and paying taxes and buying, purchasing things, and being what consumers are supposed to be to help a community thrive.
Yeah.
That's what we want. So we do none of that. Daniel did get home on the day that he was a max out, so he came home October 15th, 2018. We knew the date. Like he couldn't, some people parole, but because he had an armed robbery, 7 deadly sins, not parole eligible. We knew his date, which is actually kind of better than not knowing because the parole board likes to mess with your head, and we'll talk about that another day. But so we all got there, got to the prison, and waiting for them to pop that gate, and out he comes. And I often remember seeing him. First of all, I was so excited. I'd seen him a lot. He was able to come home for Sundays for a period of time. So times, but here he comes walking out with his garbage bag full of his last few worldly possessions in a garbage bag. That's how they release him. Now that's basically in a $25, gift card to. So basically, it's take your garbage and get out of here. See you
Yeah.
soon. That's kind of the mentality. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
So, but he came home and it was such a beautiful time. I always say it was like birth again. It's like the
Mhm.
joy of birth. I mean, I had him born, and then he died, and when he went to the prison, then he was born again, and it was just a beautiful time. He had a girl. His sister was waiting to get married for him to come home, so she got married that year. Just so many beautiful things were happening, and we were just really at peace. But again, not understanding what I know now, and what our company has developed the model to see this picture so clearly. Without that treatment, we didn't understand it. Daniel, because during his incarceration, he was traumatized. I
Mhm.
mean, full traumas of the sounds of the prisons itself, the clang, the guards, the CERT team coming in, shaking up your door, all these warlike traumas
Yeah.
happen that cause something called post-incarceration syndrome or post-traumatic prison disorder. It's a very similar. It's not been, medically claimed, if you will, but it's a real disorder.
Mhm.
So Daniel came home to all kinds of opportunity, unlike a lot of people. He couldn't get a job at Target. They wouldn't hire him because of his felony conviction. The girl that was ready to hire him was so excited. Yay! And then she's even like, we don't have anybody to work, and you're saying no to this kid? Yes. Yeah. So anyway, he was fortunate to find a good job, and he and Evie, they bought a house. Things looked really good, but I didn't understand that the triggers had started pretty early on, and triggers of hearing, like I remember him, he would react too extreme, either too angry or too laughing too hard. These really extreme emotions would come out. Like Evie and I were at the house, and he was supposed to be painting the baby's bedroom because she was pregnant now, and I'll get to it when I can. It was just like, whoa, what was that all about? But those were because he heard her voice as if it was the warden yelling at him, inmate, inmate, go paint the room.
Oh,
So
wow.
were
Yeah.
happening in his head. And because he's an addict, the brain is immediately going to this space that says, go get yourself something, right? A
Escape.
little something to make you feel better. When
Wow.
Enzo was born, we were in the hospital, and Dana was, um, the baby came, and she had a C-section, so we had to take her stuff from this one room to go to her room. And on that plastic cart, everybody knows what those look like. Well, Daniel was pushing the cart, and he had a massive anxiety attack where he started sweating, crying, shaking. He says, Mom, I feel like I'm back in prison. The hallways are just like, it's a very much like it's an institution. It's the same concrete block, right? Those floors, those shiny floors, they use those plastic carts to push the books around or the food around. So he left the hospital and went and bought cigarettes, even though Evie's like, I just had the baby. Where are you going? But he couldn't stay.
Yeah.
And so looking back, he was having a major panic attack that his brain said, go get cigarettes. That'll calm you down. Next thing you know, it's go get a Xanax. Take one, you'll be all right. And next thing you know, it's take, this. And next thing you know, it's take that. And next thing you know, it's just take heroin and you'll be fine. And he started failing all over again. It was the same cycle coming back. It was like reliving the nightmare. But now he's got a baby and a girl and a home, and things were just falling apart. It was really sad for him. But on the other hand, he did have a lot of really good times during his last time, his period of freedom. Like really good. He got to do things. Got to go on a cruise. He got to go see the Braves in the fancy section. He got to go to the Falcons in the fancy section. Just got to do a lot of really special things that he had missed out on all those 6 years. So that felt good. But sadly, his addiction overtook, and he was in and out of treatment again. That's a whole other talk show for another 7 hour conversation, because the treatment centers are just carpetbaggers coming in to take advantage of sick people and never really fixing the problem. It's disgusting. So he went in and out of treatment. We He left one program. We went up to Ohio for a dear friend of ours wedding, and that was the last time our family was all together. That was July 4th weekend 2021. And
Mm.
he looked amazing. He was gorgeous. He's All the girls loved him. He was
Yeah.
estranged from Evie, but they were trying to get back together. It was just a beautiful time for our family. And he went back into treatment because he relapsed again when he got home. And sadly, he passed away August 15th, 2021, from fentanyl. Fentanyl got him.
Wow.
And he did pass away in a treatment facility.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was just but Daniel passed when he died. Like, I got the knock on the door now. This time at 6:30 in the morning.
Mm.
The doorbell rings. I knew.
Yeah.
I knew. There was no doubt in my mind. Both Frank and I knew. We didn't even cry. It was like so weird. It was so surreal. It was like,
Wow.
how is this pot?
Mm.
But I often say that I knew what was beginning to happen. To My grief was coming. I could feel it coming,
Yeah.
and I knew I couldn't let that come again. It
Yeah.
would, it would kill me this time.
Go to those depths again. Yeah.
I would have been. I would have lost everything, and I couldn't do that. Dana would never want me to do that, so I didn't do it. I mean, I have moments. I'm getting emotional now, but he's at peace. He's
Mhm.
not. He was always at risk of going back to prison because of his addiction.
Yeah.
On
Like
probation.
living that way, I mean, living that way while you're in prison, like as you're talking about it, I feel myself getting anxious. I feel my anxiety levels going up just imagining it, and like picturing him walking down the hospital and flashing back. Like that's like true PTSD. Like that, I feel my anxiety rising. Which is, this much compared to what he surely was living. And then
Mhm.
again, just reading that book about this woman's personal experience, that you're literally always on edge, just waiting for the shoe to drop. Like
Yeah.
one thing to go a tiny bit wrong, you're screwed, you're back. And you think about how that how it feels to live like that, and how it feels to live in that constant state of PTSD. um to the pull that has to be so powerful, that to have his baby, like you would think, oh, he's got a baby, he's got that to live for, all these things are going great. How can
Mhm.
the drug, how do they care more about the drug than they do about this? But it's not about caring about the drug. It's
No,
like, how
exactly.
can I live
They're damaged. They're
with
true.
this? Yeah, how can I survive? It feels like it's about survival.
Yep, it is. And he's a man, and he couldn't get a job. He lost his job in COVID, like so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So he was trying to do the hustle, but that's not what a man wants to do, to raise with a family, and a home. And he didn't get to that feeds into his own insecurities and his own issues. So those things were real for him. He was a good man. You got to meet him, and yeah, he was a good guy. And Evie is, thank God, Enzo is doing great. He's 6.5 now. Daniel's been gone 5 years this year. Yeah, Enzo's adorable. He reminds me so much of his father in so many ways. That's a real blessing for us to have Enzo. And Evie's doing really well, in spite, she still has her moments, and I wish she would belong to your group, but she's just far enough away and distant in her hours and work. But she's found value in what you do with your group, and understands that our grief is all different. I'm a mother grieving a son. She's a wife grieving a husband. You're that, but then there's the sister grieving her
Mm-hmm.
brother. So we all have these different positions in life. That but grief
Yeah.
is grief, and
Grief is grief. It is, but it is, everybody. has different spaces that are empty because of the loss. So it
Hmm.
is from you're the wife and the mother of your children together. There's, who's taking out the trash, like those spaces, who's doing these things versus the mom perspective. It's very, very different, but it all is just sucks, and it's grief, and it's a tragic, it's one of those tragedies that feels so preventable that it makes it that much harder to make it make sense in your
Yeah,
brain.
you'll get angry. Frank will get angry. He got angry the other day for the first time in a while when he says it's just so unfair what
Hmm.
happened to our. It really is. And I
Yeah.
always have written about this many times that I feel personally that my country failed us in our systems. The public health system failed my son. The education system failed my son. The justice system failed my son. And the national security system failed my son. Fentanyl came through our open borders. I feel that. Like my family was damaged by what I believed was my country's protection mechanisms
Mhm.
for us. And none of them worked for us. I tried to make them work. I tried to ask them, please help me.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I continue to battle and fight for families because we're still losing kids to both the fentanyl, not kids too. Now these are adults that are dying too, but we're still losing masses of people. If they don't die, they end up in our prisons, sick as all get out. We're paying billions of dollars for this, and we're not getting anywhere. So I think Daniel's story, Pete's story, your husband's story are all stories that help build, like, how do you grow in spite of trauma and pain?
Yeah.
There is something called post-traumatic growth. And I read about this once many years ago, and I should look, maybe I'll let you look it up. But
Yeah.
it's like, how do you grow out of trauma and pain and grief? And when you do that, and I help families understand, it really helps to dive into something.
Mhm.
Not it is something that makes sense to you, that you feel like your pain is going to a worthy cause. And that's why so many people start nonprofits. I'm a nonprofit, it's going to be because I don't know if we have to all start nonprofits, but do something, if join something,
Mhm.
become part of something, um, and,
Yeah,
and
totally,
let
totally
pain
agree.
pain
Mhm.
come out to help you heal.
Yeah, I think that there's definite it's almost like, well, people have said to me with cystic fibrosis, for instance, where they're like, "You've done so many great things. It's amazing. It's amazing." And I say, it's self-serving. Like it is self-serving because John and I, when the boys were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, you know, many people do, is we just jumped into the fundraising because that was our way of taking the power back. That's
Yeah,
our way of saying, we're not accepting this. We're going to make a change, and we're going to do every fucking thing we can to not let their death sentence be our reality. And if there's a
yeah,
way that we can make a change, we're going to do it. And I had that conversation with John when he was diagnosed with his glioblastoma. I said, I feel like the universe is like sending me, I'm not learning my lesson in this life because I don't want to have to learn my next lesson as a widow. But now, to your point, like I feel exactly the same. The stuff that I did in the CF world gave me the skills to do what I'm doing in the widow space now. And
hmm,
it
right,
just, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have that first part
right.
of, and
That's right.
and of course the widow space, it sounds weird, but it has brought me so much joy and so much healing because I see what it's doing to these women who are like, it's a forgotten demographic. It really truly is. just
Mhm.
like just like people who have been sentenced, it's a forgotten
Mhm.
demographic.
Which
And
it's a,
it's just not, they're obviously different in the sense of the emotions and all the things that are carried, but it's an underserved and forgotten
yeah,
demographic.
that's right.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. But not with you around. We're gonna make sure it ain't forgotten.
Or, um,
Uh-uh.
love to hear, because you've met, like you said, so many families, and you've been able to make a difference in so many families' lives. Do you have like a standout example of like something that you've just like a story of a family that just makes you really proud of what you're doing? You should be proud regardless, but do
Yeah,
you have something
I have
stand out?
a lot of them. There's a couple that stand out. One is a young man. He's still incarcerated, but I've been working with him for 10 years now, his family, because he also had substance use disorder and kept relapsing while incarcerated. And getting into trouble. So over the years, I helped kind of guide them and him and to like, let's figure out how to do better. I know it's rough in there, but you got to figure out if you're tied to a hospital bed or you're behind a prison wall, you got to figure out a way to find personal growth. So we worked with him for years and years. And I just got a call from him last night. They finally moved him to, he'll be coming home soon. He's been in 10 years, but to a really good camp that has really good programs and some really serious treatment because he still needs treatment. And so we finally got him there and he sounded so happy. He's so great. His father calls me. They're so grateful. So there's stories like that. And then there's stories of this young woman. She is in and out of prison her whole life. And every time she got released, she got back in her old neighborhood. She never had any skill set, nothing in there. She was, addicted to drugs, had whatever other issues. Came back to back to the streets. Trouble, trouble, trouble. Started drugs again. Back in, back out, back in. That went on for like 13 years. She finally came into our program. We have a housing program for women, and she came into our program about 2.5, maybe 3 years now. And she got, at one point, she said, "This is the longest she's ever been out of prison." That's the first thing she said. And then she said, now she's working full time. She got credentialed as a forensic peer mentor in addiction and a certified peer specialist in addictive health.
Oh, wow.
And she's our housing manager in one of our houses now.
Stop it. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
It's
That's awesome.
amazing. She's
I
been
just,
sober for 5 years now, and she's really good with the women that come into her home because she's been there, done that. And so, yeah, we have those. We always, again, our thing is first and foremost, is the person safe, and are they growing? If you're
yeah,
not growing, what's the point? You've got to
right.
figure out a way to do better, and in spite of the dire situation you're in. And you know who taught me that? Barbara Bricker. Barbara, you're going to watch this. She told me that when Pete was so sick, she said, "You've got to." No, when Daniel went in, that's what it was. You always have to figure out where you can do your best. And she was right. She's right. Like you gotta,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that fetal position with a wine bottle. It's not very becoming. It's not attractive at all.
Well, and I think, we all have to like live in that space for a little bit of time just to like be able to hopefully come out of it. Be like, okay, enough is enough. Like, get your
Mhm.
shit together, move on. So, or move forward. It's not moving on. I hate it when people
Yeah,
say that. You're like
yeah.
moving forward. How do I move forward with this as part of my story now?
Okay.
Forward.
Right here with me.
Right
But I'm
here.
gonna go. I'm
Yeah,
not. I'm
that's
not
right.
putting on my pajamas again. I did not. I just looked. I looked in the mirror when I was still really sick, and I'm like, God, that a hideous woman. She's hideous.
Yeah. I look back now too at pictures of me in the
Yeah,
darkest days and I'm like, oh
yeah,
my
right.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you're a survivor. We're survivors, and
Survivors.
we'll be,
Yeah.
we'll be okay. And our stories are I say this is the American story, right? All of this,
Well,
what people.
addiction literally affects so many people in our population and again, supremely underserved. Super.
Yeah, it's terrible, but I'll keep battling out there. I'm not going anywhere. It's been 10 years. I plan on retiring at some point, but not quite yet.
Yeah,
But
not
I'm
quite.
doing,
Well, if
I
you wanted to get like, how would people get in touch with you? I'll put links in our show notes and stuff too. But if somebody's listening to this, going, "I wish I had this. I wish I could be connected to this." What do they do?
we do have a website, joinnia.com. Pam will share that.
Mhm.
I'm on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Feel free to reach out because
Mhm.
we do have a team of intake coordinators that will take calls. But I'll take your call personally. I still take calls to help start the process. Even if your person's not been arrested, or maybe you feel like they're heading that way, or they just got arrested, you don't know what to do. We're not attorneys, but I sure know what to do
You've
to
been
not
through it. Yeah.
to not hire a shitty attorney. I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta have knowledge.
I think it sounds so much like when someone gets diagnosed with cancer. It's like learning a new language, but you're under
Yeah.
time crunch that you got to learn it so fast. It sounds like there's so many
It,
parallels. It's
there are
crazy.
so many. I say that a lot. There are so many parallels because you're just when you got a sick person in the hospital, you're just sitting in this little room waiting for something. You're hoping somebody will bring you an answer, but they don't.
No.
You got to chase them down to find
Mhm.
the answer.
Yep.
And
You
so
got it.
it
Mhm.
doesn't it's to be that way, but
Yeah.
we'll just pick at one little thing at a time.
That's right. That's
But
right.
yeah, feel free to call, reach out if you have a family member that's in trouble or yourself personally. We've had grown men call us up and say, "I need help because I'm getting ready to go to prison." Like literally, and
That's
I'm scared.
impressive. do. And thank God they have you to serve as a resource. I mean, that's tremendous.
Mhm.
It's probably just like the CF world, just like whatever in the widow space. Like, there will be no way to really really get a solid number on the number of lives that you are positively impacting and changing, which on the one hand, I'm sure you're just like me in the sense that competitive nature, like, I want to know the full impact. We'll never know, but
No,
knowing and then like multiplying it times 1,000, is like, that's going to be your number because
it's exactly it
it's just
is.
insane. Yeah.
I was at a Sprint store one time, and the lady said, "Oh, you're Kate Boccia. You helped my sister."
No. Oh my God.
Oh, okay, good, thanks. But yeah, so you're right, Pam. It's exponentially gonna go to where it needs to go.
It is. It is. And I mean, just impressive, the resilience, the strength, the pure like mom power that you mustered from the depths
Well,
to
I'll tell you a funny story about mom real quick. They call me Mama Kate, and you'll see my story on the website. And there's a blog I wrote about that. But she's now our chief development officer. She heard about me. Her husband was incarcerated, and he said, "There's this woman's named Kate, and her phone number it's on the bathroom wall in a prison." And I said, "What, for a good time call." And she said, "I'm calling this number like I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm calling this woman
Oh
named Kate. It's on
my,
my husband's bathroom wall in a prison." But
that's hilarious. Oh
so
my
way to call Mama Kate.
Mama Kate, I love it. Well, I will definitely put the website, your Facebook link, and your LinkedIn in the show notes. And I just think you're amazing. I've always thought you're amazing, and you're just continuing to be amazing and making the world better with your pure sheer will and power to do good. Yeah,
Just
let's.
Mama Clark, that's all.
Well, is there anything else you want to share that I didn't think of, or
No, one thing, I'll see you tomorrow night, I think. The Wine and Roses stuff kick off. Are you
oh,
going?
all
No?
right.
I got my Shamrockin' mug here. I use that
Okay.
every day to do that. So we still have CF stuff to do.
All
So
the CF stuff. That's right.
yeah.
We're not
So
giving up.
no, thank you. Yeah,
All right.
thank you for having
Thank you,
me. It's
Kate,
been a
so
lot of
much.
fun.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for this important conversation. And yeah, you're amazing. You're impressive, and I'm really grateful to have you as part of my family and friend circle. And I just think you're awesome. And yeah,
Thank
if
you.
anybody wants to reach out to Kate, she's there for you. Mama Kate,
Mm-hmm.
take care of
That's
you.
right.
So yeah, so thank you all for joining. Thank you for tuning in and yeah, check Kate out because she's awesome. But all right,
Mm-hmm.
thank you, Kate. I love
Thank
you.
you. Love you too. I'll see
All
you
right.
soon.